Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha. Agajanana Padmarkam Gajananam Aharnisham Anekadam Tam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe. In the previous chapter, we were hearing the story of King Bhima and his wife Charuhasini, who did not had any children, and they left for the great forest. And in the forest they met sage Vishwamitra, and Vishwamitra told him it is all because of the sin committed by Bhima, because he gave up his family tradition of worshipping Gajanana. And worshipping Gajanana had become their family tradition because of his forefathers. And he told the story of his forefather. 7 generations before that, King Bhima was a king called Vallabha who had a wife Kamala. And then they too had a child at a late point in their village, in their life. And that child was suffering with so many sores, deaf and dumb, and the child was suffered with many disabilities. And then king and as well the queen tried to get a cure for their child by trying with all the means. But when they see nothing is working out, the king finally, in a disgust, was depressed, and he gave up both his queen as well the child. The mother, the queen mother Kamala, along with her child Daksha, he went from town to town begging the people for their livelihood. And on one day they came across with a great devotee of Gajanana, and by mere the air passing over his body, when that air touched Daksha, Daksha was suddenly cured from all the diseases. It was a miracle that happened to them. And all of a sudden, the whole townsmen started respecting both the mother and the son. And then they met a Brahmin, and that Brahmin told them to worship Gajanana, and he taught both of them that 6 syllable Ganesha Mantra. And both mother and son, standing on a single toe, only mere breathing, without taking any food or the water, they performed a very strict penance of Gajanana using that 6 syllable mantra. A compassionate God Gajanana appeared before them and blessed both of them. And then he told, I will not give you any boon because I want you to go and meet my great devotee Mudgala, because of whom Daksha was completely cured of all the diseases. So he wanted both his devotees to meet each other, and Mudgala, being himself a scholar, he wanted Daksha to learn all about the Vedas, Shastras, Puranas, everything from that great devotee Mudgala. Now the story continues. Vishwamitra said, terribly agitated, Vallabha's son was wandering around and running to and fro. He was searching for that great sage Mudgala, but he could not find his lost clothes and jewels. On the road, he questioned Brahmins and trees about what Vinayaka was saying. Where has Vinayaka gone? Because he was searching for Vinayaka. And Vinayaka told him about the same Mudgala. So, has he seen anywhere? Tell me about the celestial hermitage of Mudgala. Where can I find Vinayaka? Where can I find Mudgala? An exceptional devotee who is devoted to Gajanana. It is excellent and gives security to all his followers. Such was the quality of sage Mudgala. Wandering about and mentally reflecting on Mudgala, he went to his charming heritage of many wonders which surpassed Alakananda. Alakananda is one of the tributary to Ganga. So on the banks of Alakananda, he found the hermitage of Mudgala. In there, on a very splendid seat, he saw the Brahmin Mudgala. He knew the truth of who knew the truth of Vedas and the Vedangas, and he was skilled in all the Shastras, possessed the sun's splendor. He was shining with the brilliance. because of the power derived from his yogic exercises and variety of forms. In accordance with the procedures of 16 forms of ritual, which in the past we discussed the Shodasha Upachara. So he tried to worship that sage Mudgala. So Mudgala was worshipping a large image of Vinayaka using all those 16 forms of rituals. It had that form of Vinayaka, the large image of Vinayaka had three eyes and was made out of gold and jewels adorned with many ornaments. On seeing the sage Mudgala, Daksha bowed prostrating on the ground, shedding tears from his eyes and sighing repeatedly. Then Mudgala asked him, "Who are you, my son? Where have you come from? How can I remove your pain? Leaving nothing out, tell me about everything about yourself." After hearing the Brahmin's words and having collected his wits, Kamala's son Daksha spoke to that bull of the Brahmins. That means he was such a uh, excellent person among the Brahmins. In your presence, O Brahmin, I am going to speak only the truth about myself. In the country of Karnataka, there was a king in the city of Bhanu. He was named Vallabha and he understood correct political conduct and he was very wise, gave gifts, and was very compassionate to his subjects. But when his wife Kamala gave birth to me, I had lot of disabilities with so many sores on my body, blood filled wounds that stank, and I was blind, a hunchback, deaf, dumb, and racked with coughing. When the townspeople saw me, they said, "Better you get rid of this child." For 12 years, my father made considerable effort, but he did not achieve his goal. And with he did a penance with Maheshwara. He did his meditation over Maheshwara, who could have done wonder to my body, but still nothing worked out. Then, because of violence of his inner feelings, he banished me and Kamala, my mother. Thereafter, in her distressed condition, my mother began wandering from town to town. She came with me to this city of Kaundinya, and being tormented by hunger, she began to wander around begging. Due to the power of her previous merit, because of some good deeds that she had done in the past, we experienced this vision of you. It was just like a sight for a blind man. And due to the touch of your breath and the power of your limbs, all my blemishes have suddenly disappeared like a miracle. A miracle that just happened in the past to Ahalya when she touched Rama's foot. You heard about that, you may be heard knowing about that story in Ramayana, where Ahalya was living in like a stone in her hermitage. When Rama entered her hermitage, she get back to her life. So similarly, I got a new life just by the passing air of from your body. Through your favor, I have obtained a celestial body, O strong old sage. Yet this was something I did not understand, nor could my mother explain it to me. But I was amazed and I resolved in my heart, since I have gained this celestial body by virtue of the breeze from your body, then whenever I see him, I will assume this body. Whenever I see him, that means since that day, I resolved to see you and be your disciple. After wandering around for many days with this intention, Ganesha, the repository of compassion, appeared before me, resembling a myriad of suns. Gajanana, the god of gods, the supreme deity, was satisfied with our austerity, and on seeing him, Kamala gained the desires she had wished for in her heart. Then, in a mellifluous tone, the pleased god said to me, since you have become exhausted from wandering around as a result of having undertaken a vow for a particular aim. There is an excellent Brahmin called Mudgala, and he will take care of your next part of the life. After I had heard that speech my heart thrilled, and then I eulogized Gajanana with many eulogies, and then pleased he said, wise boy, choose a boon. So I told him of all my mind's desires, and he had abandoned his form as a Brahmin and took another form. He abandoned his true form and took the form as a Brahmin. In his real form, he was four-armed, large in body. His head was covered with large crown, and in his hands he carried an axe, a lotus, a garland, and a sweet meat. He was wearing celestial garments, and the tip of his trunk, his on the tip of his trunk and his tusk were shining. On his ears he wore some earrings which were like the orb of a sun. A snake was encircled around his body. He wore celestial ornaments, and he was attended by kinnaras and kimpurushas, a group of heavenly musicians and divine sages. He is explaining this to confirm to Mudgala, sage Mudgala, that he had the real sight of Gajanana himself. Then, after I had seen that form, I became filled with joy. In the same way as the ocean was in a full tide after seeing the full moon. But at that very moment, that form disappeared before I could look at it properly, just as when one is awake does not see everything and have as though everything occurred in a dream. It just passed off like a dream. I could even before I could able to request him for any boon. I then became utterly depressed, swooned and fell to the ground. When I became conscious again, I was thinking about the request that I choose a boon, and I asked the Lord of the God of the gods, the Lord who pervades everything, may there be permanent prosperity in my house, and may my devotion to you be the same all my life. If it was become because of previous merit that I saw you, then give these two things to me. Wonderful. He asked is the prosperity all the time exist in his family. That everyone naturally asked. But the one that he asked next was something that is special. He asked Gajanana that his devotion towards Gajanana be remained always permanently with him. That when I asked for that particular boon, though the form was not in front of me, I could able to hear a voice from the atmosphere. It is given, it is given, it is given. After which I am thrilled in heart, and I came in search of you, O Mudgala, O sage Mudgala. You are the elephant faced god, and the elephant faced is Mudgala. Thus does Gajanana eliminate everything that is visible in my mind. Because so far, Daksha, after performing his penance, he saw the form Ganesha in a form of the elephant god. He saw the brilliance of Gajanana. Before he could ask the boon, Gajanana had disappeared because Gajanana wanted Daksha to meet Mutkala. Depressed, Daksha then started crying and he was asking him for a boon. Please let my devotion be remain permanent in you. For which Gajanana said, it is given from nowhere, from the atmosphere. He was telling this. But then he came here to meet Mudgala. And the speciality of Mudgala is he himself was looking similar to that of Gajanana. Gajanana first in his form and then took the form of a Brahmin. And that form of the Brahmin was actually the form of the same sage Mudgala. Brigu, who was telling this story to Somakanta, continued. Having heard his speech, Mudgala spoke these words: Daksha, O son of Kamala, you have done your duties successfully and you are a great devotee. Nobody can describe the glory of your devotion. I performed rock solid austerities for 1000 years. You know, yet I have never seen a god like the way you had the vision of that Lord of all worlds and the teacher of beings moving and non moving, the teacher of the constant guide of Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas, and the foundation of all the gunas, who creates the bodies of the Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, who is the creator of beings and the manifestations, the basic elements of creation, the senses and the intelligence. Neither the gods, nor the Vedas, nor the sages know him completely, but such indeed is that Gajanana who you have manifestly seen. You have seen. That means Daksha could able to, by mere performing a penance for a short period, what Daksha could able to see in a form, Daksha could able to see Gajanana in a form. Mudgala, sage Mudgala being such a great devotee, even after performing 1000 years of austerity, he is yet to see Gajanana in a form. That is the compassion of the Supreme Deity. I praise your feet as you are a greater devotee than even me. Then they bowed to each other and embraced, and as a teacher and his friend being one in mind, they met together for as though they have met after a long time. Beginning with recitation and meditation, Mudgala taught the one syllable mantra to the compliant prince Daksha. Day after day, he told him that this one syllable mantra, keep saying this, undertake a personal service, and he will be pleased with you. Gajanana will give you those desires you wish for in your heart. If you let go of this mantra, you will be utterly destroyed. But if, however, you practice devotion for a long time in this world, you will become you will be one among the Ganesha's devotees, and you become subservient to the world protectors, Indra, and so forth. That means you will become equivalent to all the demigods. After you have enjoyed all carnal enjoyments here, you will attain liberation upon death. So, here in this story, Daksha, who was depressed after not seeing Gajanana, he went in search of the form, the Brahmin form, what he had seen just after Gajanana's vision. That form was the form of Mudgala. So he went in search, asking the people, where is the hermitage of this great sage Mudgala? And after a long search, he saw the hermitage of sage Mudgala on the banks of river Alakananda, which was so peaceful. And then he went and prostrated in front of sage Mudgala. Mudgala then asked him for his introduction. Daksha explained about himself as well, how he was cured because of the air, the breeze that was passing through the body of Mudgala. He was cured miraculously from all his childhood problems. And then he performed austerities to Gajanana, and he told about how he had the vision of Gajanana, And even just before he could ask any boon to Gajanana, Gajanana's form disappeared. Then Daksha cried, asking him that he wanted to keep the devotion of Gajanana for lifetime. Then, from out of nowhere, from the atmosphere, he heard the voice that it is granted. Then he came searching for Sage Mudgala. Sage Mudgala accepted Daksha as his disciple and taught him about the single syllable mantra and told him to perform the austerities for lifetime, to keep that single syllable mantra for his lifetime so that he will be blessed for his whole life, and in the end of his life he will reach Ganesha Loka and attain the mukti, the liberation. Thus ends the 21st chapter of Upasana Khanda of the glorious Ganesha Purana, in which sage Mudgala and Daksha met each other. Namaste Sharada Devi Kashmira Puravasini Twamaham Prarthaye Nityam Vidya Danancha Dehime. Goodbye.